Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. My name is Swire Ho. You can also call me the promo guy. My guest today is Chris Travis, owner and CEO of Seattle Strength and Performance. Chris started a corporate career and he decided to leave his corporate technology career to follow his passion for fitness and helping others. Chris honed his unique philosophy, emphasizing the importance of accessibility and inclusivity for strength training for everyone. In 2019, Chris began personal training full time and opened Seattle Strength and Performance Queen Anne in August 2020. He then opened a second location in Philly Ridge in May 2022 and now has a third location in West Seattle, which opened in May 2024. Since the opening, SSP has grown exponentially is to now include a membership base over 600 and seven-figure business. Chris Holt, Master of Science in Exercise Science, along with number of fitness and nutrition certification. He's also a business coach with Business for Unicorn, whose mission is to help gym owners across the country and will improve their business and take home more income. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Chris, I really love your journey. I don't know where to begin. I want to learn more first about what makes you want to make the switch from your corporate career to become a gym owner.
Yeah, honestly, even when I think about it now, it still feels kind of crazy. It was one of those things where, I was at Amazon for about 10 years, and I progressed really well. Got promoted a couple of times, leading a pretty big team and new initiatives. And Amazon kind of gives you that ability. But it was about 2014 when I first started entering a gym consistently and strength training for the first time. And just kind of had a really transformative experience. My mental and physical health got so much better. And as I got going and started doing it more over the years, I just kind of got geeky about it. I was like, well, how does this work? How do I help people? How do I help improve lives? And I saw so many other people who were in very similar positions that I was in when I first started strength training, struggling with their health a little bit because of the kind of intensity of the hours that I was putting into my corporate world. And so that was really the start of it. And then I took about probably 18 months thinking to myself, that is absolutely crazy. I cannot do that. I cannot leave Amazon and go do this new career. And there came to a certain point where I just couldn't get the bug out of my head. And so I decided, worst case scenario, I leave for a couple years, try it out, doesn't work out, and I go back and do what I was doing. But I didn't want to be 80 years old and look back and regret not trying it out. Right. So I decided in mid 2019 to leave Amazon and go from the ground up, basically started training clients and learning as much as I could about exercise and fitness and getting as much education as I possibly could and trying to learn as much as I possibly could. And that was really the start of it. And then thankfully it's worked out for me.
And I think the amazing story, and I would love you to share more. And COVID hits, and now you make that career switch. And do you think that's the best timing for you?
No, not at all. Yeah, it was a tough time. I think, I left in mid 2019, started training, and I wanted to train for a little while, and just kind of work in the industry to kind of see how it felt, and to start to get a client base and do all that. And then I decided to open the gym, in 2020. And, when I first signed the lease for my first space, funny enough, it was like right around that time where COVID was, it was in like March, April, where COVID was
Yeah.
okay,
Like
it
the
was going
shutdowns
around and we didn't really know what it was, but we knew it was serious. And, the government was like, okay, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks, right? Everything's going to shut down for 2 weeks. And so I was like, well, I'm going to sign the lease anyway and see what happens. And obviously that ended up being a much longer shutdown and a period of shutdowns over a long period of time. But yeah, not the greatest timing, but thankfully it worked out.
But what happened between I'm going back to your bio from
Mm-hmm.
August 2020 to
Mm-hmm.
May 2022. So obviously business is doing well. Then you
Mm-hmm.
decided to open a second location, right? So walk us through that 2 year period. What happened there?
Yeah. So August 2020 rolled around and, not a lot of people were going anywhere at that point.
Mm,
But there were a few people in the neighborhood that we were in who wanted to get back into a gym. And so obviously we had all of the precautions and everything in place with COVID and following the state guidelines. at the time. And so we started to kind of just amass a little bit of a membership base. And I remember we had about, 50 members or so going into November 2020 when everything shut down for a couple months, pretty much
Hmm.
across the country. And those 50 people still worked out with us. They still came almost every day. They
Hmm.
worked out outside in our parking lot under canopies in the dead of winter in Seattle, which is wild to me still. I think about it. But they did. And they kind of stuck around. And then when January 2021 rolled around and we came back inside, we just started seeing this up and to the right effect. And members started coming. We were developing a really strong community. And at that point, we just really focused on how do we develop a great experience, have people come in, have a great experience, and develop a sense of community coming out of a period where people had zero community, right? Where they were craving it. They were craving some kind of like human connection after being isolated for so long.
Hmm.
And so we really focused on that. And then all through 2021, we just grew the business. We ended up at the end of 2021 from going from 50 members at the start to 155.
Wow.
And we're a training gym, and so our ticket's a little bit higher than a normal kind of like big box gym. So we charge anywhere, average membership is like 250 to 350 every 4 weeks, right?
Hmm.
So people are paying that for kind of like a more premium training service. And at the end of 2021, to be honest with you, I had only been the gym had only been open for about 18 months. And I was evaluating for myself after going through this hard period of like, wow, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to maybe get a GM and just kind of go back and do what I was doing at Amazon, or do something different, take on a new challenge? Or do I want to really do this gym business and this fitness business full time and really put the gas down? And so that self-evaluation happened. And I said, yeah, I'm going to double down. This is what I want to be doing. I looked at jobs out there and I said, there's nothing else that excites me as much as what I'm doing right now. And so I'm just going to double down. And that's when I decided to open a second one in May 22.
Wow. I want to really dig deeper if you allow me, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
obviously I could come to a conclusion at what you just said. You didn't do this for the money.
Yeah,
Obviously, in the
yeah,
beginning at least, right?
yeah,
So you
for sure.
you looked at what are the conversation and what do you look at like matrix wise? Now I'm tying a little bit into the business, right? So if you have your corporate career and it seems like
Mhm,
it's going stable,
mhm.
obviously in the beginning it probably pay more than owning a gym,
Oh, yeah.
but now you're going through COVID, you're able to build a community, right? People are
Mhm,
able to go out and they want really just time for something to do to keep them motivated and
mhm,
healthy. So you have that, but from your business standpoint, from the data that you see, what give you the conviction that I got to double down. I am going to
mm,
put more money and resources to open a second one. Right in the 2022 is like we just out a little bit,
mhm.
but a lot of retail business are still
Yeah,
getting the foot traffic that they normally would see.
yeah. No, that's a great question. I'll say, it's a mix of seeing the growth that I saw in the first location and being really convicted about, okay, I think this model works and what we're doing works, and I want to bring this to more people. Mixed with a little bit of crazy. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little, I'm a little bit of a risk taker, and so for me to double down, I said, I'm gonna keep trying to do this, and generally, like you said, I don't think anybody gets into the fitness business for money. And I just don't. It's not a super lucrative career. You can make it that way, but it's not super lucrative. And so I've always been very mission based, and so that was the reason I switched from Amazon in the first place to do this. And so I in 2022 to open the second one, I really just kind of leaned into that, and I said, I believe this will work, and I believe in the mission, and I believe in the things that we're doing every day, and I want to continue growing this and see where it goes.
Mm. And where do you know that it's really you're on something here now? And then you open up a third location this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The third location honestly was I knew once we were able to build the second one up to a certain level and it was highly profitable and doing really well and we had a lot of members, I knew that what we were doing was something that worked. And what we were doing was something that was needed and people were looking for it. And so, the third one, Thankfully, I waited a couple years and I built up enough cash flow where I didn't, the third one, to be honest with you, I didn't have to take out any capital
Mm.
outside of funding the business with the existing cash flow from the current business. And that's a huge positive there, And so for me, I knew it was working. I knew it was just about extending the model and getting good at scaling it and the complexity around that. And if I could really solve that with a third one, then I feel like I'm really onto something as far as really expanding this to multiple locations.
Is it where at the time where people and other gym owners start reaching out to you, and then you decided to,
Mm,
maybe you can coach other gym owner how to
mhm.
do this like you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I actually, in 2022, I was looking for kind of like a mastermind group to join,
Mm.
and so I started looking at a few. And Business for Unicorns, who I work for now, is just a great organization. It's run by a couple great guys, Michael Keeler and Mark Fisher, who run a gym in New York called Mark Fisher Fitness. Very successful gym, very smart guys. And so, when I joined their group as a member, I was looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance. And also, entrepreneurship, I think a lot of people would say, is lonely. You're kind of, especially when you run your own company, you're kind of just out there doing your thing, and you don't really have a lot of camaraderie out there. And so I was looking for a group to kind of like drive some of that and also learn a bit. And so that's where Business for Unicorns came in, and was in the group as a member for about a year. And then they asked me to start coaching other gym owners with them. And so that's when I kind of made that transition over.
And do you think you like that approach and you could learn and share your expertise? Like, how does that, help you as an entrepreneur and a gym owner, by coaching others how to do it kind of the right way, right? How you
Yeah,
have done to be successful.
for sure. And I think, certainly every business and every gym and every market's going to be a little bit different. But at the same time, there are certainly best practices that apply across most fitness businesses, right? So if somebody has a problem driving leads, we can talk about, okay, there are these levers that you should think about pulling and investigate and then see what works for your marketplace. But I can certainly give them a full, playbook of things to try out that will largely one of those things or two of those things will work, because it's pretty widely used best practice in the fitness industry.
Do you think your corporate career probably helped prepare you to be better look at data that versus,
Oh
if someone have started in the fitness journey all the way through the knife, they might not be paying more attention to the data and how it affect the business?
100%, yeah. And I think I always tell gym owners this because they ask sometimes about my growth and how that happened. And I think a lot of people always look for like a little bit of a magic bullet, like I must be doing something crazy.
Like a
And I
special
always,
routine.
I always tell people it comes down to like really just really good execution. That's it. And for me, because I had that business background and I worked at Amazon for years, one of the first things I did was like, we're going to set up a weekly business review. We're going to set up quarterly projects. We're going to review these as a team. And I also think in the fitness industry, there's sometimes where when you hire coaches, you're hiring them to coach on the floor and that's all they do.
Mhm.
And my philosophy has always been, I want to build careers and I want to build skill sets and professionals. And so all of my coaches actually have other jobs outside of just training on the floor, that they contribute to the business in other ways. And they're able to report on those metrics and the things that they own when we come together as a team in like a weekly business review.
Okay. So like you think the process, the way that set up meeting, maybe, using like corporate term, the KPI, right?
Mhm,
So if you are, investing, for example, a new machine, right? Or,
mhm.
hire a new coach and they could bring in certain client. So that's some of the things that you coach for other gym owner, if they haven't already considered doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I would say like, a lot of small business owners, and I don't expect them to have this background, is that they are really good proficiently in the thing that they do, right? So a lot of gym owners are really good in training, really great coaches, right? They're really good
Mhm.
at training. A lot of them don't have any business experience. So when it comes to actually understanding how to run the business, how to manage the business, how to develop and manage employees, how to hire, how to look at the business and track those metrics, they don't have any background in doing that, right? So a lot of the value that I provide, I think, is in helping them set up mechanisms to be able to review their business ongoing so that they can make smarter decisions.
I
Yeah.
think that goes for, one that is good at baking, that might be, good, like a service-based,
Mhm.
professional, right? So the owner, the founder normally is the best person to do
Yeah.
the work. And I think some of the challenge and then the concern that I see a lot of times is, when we are at scale, right? So you are at your limit, right? To
Mhm.
do baking, training,
That's
or
it.
whatever you do best,
Yeah.
you have to hire an employees or you hire
Mhm.
coaches, right?
Mhm.
Workers. So they don't have that. So how do you carry on the message? You said you about building a community when you start hiring your first coach. Can you walk us through that process, like when you hire your first coaches, right? So
Yeah.
you might or might not have the same philosophy training other people.
Yeah, 100%. You have to vet that in the hiring process, you know? So I always tell people, if you're looking for a specific profile of person and somebody that really resonates with the core values of your business and the things that you want to do, I think you have to try and find that type of person. Um, and it's true. I think in any business and particularly in fitness, there are a lot of really experienced coaches out there who do really great stuff. But if you get somebody who has experience of 10 years coaching, they probably have their own philosophy and their own way of doing things, you know, and they're kind of set a little bit in their ways and they may not want to adopt a different way of doing things. And that's okay. But that means that they're probably not a great fit for my business. Right.
Mm,
And so thankfully I've been, certainly like the early stones and pieces that I put in place for the business on my, who are now on my management team, were people that highly resonated with what I was doing, that were like, hey, there's something different about what's happening here. There's something I want to be a part of. I want to be on the kind of rocket ship of growth here as we grow. And thankfully those people have been with me and been able to like move into leadership positions and develop within the organizations they go. And thankfully, if I have those people as we hire down the ladder, you know, our culture remains more intact because I have more people than just me that's really talking about and evangelizing what we stand for and what's important to us.
mhm. Let me ask you one question about marketing because I've
Mhm.
talked to gym owners and I
Yeah.
know a few personal trainer myself. They think that the marketing part is tough, right? You
Mm.
can go on Instagram, you can go on TikTok, you could
Yeah.
do all the heavy lifting or showing up your body, right? Your beach body, right? During
Yeah.
the summer, but people like the video, but then
Mm.
when I talk to them, I say, "Wow, you have a lot of followers. Your video get likes a lot." But they told me that, yeah, these people like my video, but they don't translate to be actual client, or they
Mm.
are like thousands of miles away. So,
Yeah.
how do you look at your data in terms of your marketing
Mhm.
and actually bring those people physically into your gym?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll say like running a brick and mortar gym is probably a little bit different than say like online. Online,
Hmm.
I think there's different challenges and I don't have a ton of experience on that front, so I won't comment too much on it. But in terms of like brick and mortar, especially when you're running a gym like ours, which is a personal training focused gym, I really just focus on being like, 5 to 10 mile famous.
Hmm.
Like what is the radius of people around me and how do I get those people into the gym? And so, the first thing I think a lot of people forget when they're in fitness is there's a lot of tools that you can use that are at your disposal that don't require paid advertising. One of them is, if you got 50 members in your gym, try and create 100 by asking one member from every person in your gym, right?
Hmm.
Because the likelihood that they're in your gym and they love what you do and they're paying you a membership ongoing, they probably know somebody who would benefit from the training that you provide. And if you give them a little bit of an incentive to do that, and you give the person coming in a little bit of an incentive to join, that's probably going to work, right? And then I think as you develop a database of people who have tried your gym and not fully signed up or whatever happened, you start to develop a database of people that you can then email and reach out to and say, hey, actually, we're running a special. I want you to join my gym for 14 days for $59. How do you feel about that? Right. And trying to get them to sign up. And that'll drive a little bit of traffic. And then you also get leads in who never converted into trial memberships. You can also reach out to them occasionally with an offer. Right. And so I think there's all of these organic things that you can do um, that will help you drive leads into your gym. You just have to systemize them and be really good and efficient at it. And I think if you can do that, running paid ads may not even be necessary if you're able to just really tap into that kind of like 5-10 mile radius around you and do a really good job of cultivating community there.
Yeah, I love the conversation. Like you didn't say like I have this matrix
Hmm.
with Google Ads or
Hmm.
whatever Facebook that you do. Like it's all organic, and I think you also mentioned you know your client retention, right?
Hmm.
You not only were able to recline those clients, you're able to ask them for word of mouth. Word of
Yeah,
mouth referral is the best, right?
that's it.
So you might not grow as fast as if you just blast out like $1 million Google ad
Yeah.
campaign, but if the client who is working at a gym feel happier, feel healthier, or maybe they feel stronger.
Hmm.
So when they convince the one person that they talk to, that person going to see the results, and then they actually becomes your walking mini ambassador for the gym. So if they
That's
tell
it.
one person, and then maybe you don't get all the conversion, right? You get some conversion, and then you keep on that process, and
Hmm.
it's slower than what some people might want, like instant success, like they turn on the switch,
Yep.
right? But these are really, if once they in, they in because they can see the result, and
That's it.
maybe there's something that they think, wow, my friend really look good. They're
Hmm.
getting really healthy. Maybe I should really try that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really key to have, you need to make sure the people you get in the door have a really great experience, right? Because if you end up losing 15, 20 members a month, it's gonna be really hard for you to grow a business. Like you just can't replace, it's gonna be really hard to replace those 15, 20 members every month, right? So you want to keep your churn down. And the way you do that is just by delivering results, helping people have a really great experience, right? And then tapping into their great experience to get another person in the door that will also have a great experience. And that's really the way that is exactly the way that we grew our first gym community during COVID. Was we weren't getting a ton of organic leads, but the leads we did get in the door, we made sure they had a really great experience, and we converted them into memberships at a very high level. And then they knew people who also wanted to come into a gym environment coming out of COVID, and we brought those people in, right? And we retained really well, and we just kind of incrementally grew from there.
Yeah, I think what you just said, talks about the branding, the marketing, and they're really highly target. You can pay for those type of leads. You have to be organic, and then
Hmm.
those member that you send out to get that one friend or colleague or
Hmm.
whoever to come in, they're already in it
Yeah,
already
that's
because
it.
the friend probably tell them everything about what they've done, and
Hmm.
they couldn't wait to get in and work out, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
So I want to go back a little bit. Now you have done it for a few years now.
Mm.
Looking back, with the career change, if you know what you know right now
Hmm.
in 2019, would you still do the same thing?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. And a big reason for that is because it's not that I disliked Amazon. And I think for me, Amazon served a great purpose in like giving me a ton of skills and great experience. And I learned from like literally the smartest people, some of the smartest people in the world who work there, and I was in the room with those people. And, but I think I've never been happier in my career than I am right now, with what I do. And I think there's a big piece of that, which is, I'm excited about kind of like being an entrepreneur and running my own business and doing all that stuff. But also I feel like the business that I run, I can see the impact it has on people every day, you know, and hearing that feedback and that customer feedback, and not only from our members who train every day and talk about how life changing that experience is for them, but also from my team. I gain a lot of value, and I have a lot of pride in my ability to kind of like help people develop careers and help people develop as professionals. And I feel like I've been able to do that in this role more than I ever have been in the past. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that experience, but I definitely wouldn't change it from where I am right now.
I think having your corporate background really do help you, Chris, because
Mhm.
you could learn skills. Obviously, there are other really highly trained uh, personal trainers out there, but
Mhm.
then they might not have the skill set that you have. Looking at the data, talking to the right people, and from talking to you, I know that when you talk to a person, you could really see what kind of personality they are. Is there a fit, or is there not a good fit?
Mhm.
These are something that needs years to develop. And then
Mhm.
if you only train in your own service or your trade,
That's
you
right.
might not have that skill set when running a business. So I think that kind of separate, like a really highly skilled coach versus entrepreneur, a gym owner like yourself?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Thank you. And I think, yeah, the piece that I think has been a big differentiator for me, especially at scale, right, where we've started to grow the business some, is really that people management and development and hiring skill set that I picked up at Amazon. In Amazon, I was a bar raiser, which people don't know what that is. There's a select group of people in the company who sit on every interview loop. Doesn't matter if it's for their group or not. Most of them are not for their group. And the idea there is that all the bar raisers are evaluating for is this person a fit for Amazon, and are they raising the bar at their function and at their level coming into Amazon? Meaning, are they greater than 50% of the people that already sit there? And so I did well over 500 interviews at Amazon,
Wow.
and a lot of those were bar raising interviews. And so for me, having that skill set, there's no way that I could ever replace that. Like that experience sits with me, and I was able to bring that over into my world now, and it's helped me tremendously.
Yeah, that's one thing about having your experience, especially now with your skills as an entrepreneur. Something that you do daily is it sounds so simple for you, but
Mhm.
then there are a lot of people who dying to have part of the skills that you have.
Yeah, for sure.
So, want to ask you a kind of a big question. So, what advice would you give the listener if they are, in the service, or if they are a professional trainer, wanted to open up the gym? Would you actually suggest them to really look into it? What are your thoughts?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's a a little bit of a loaded question, I think. It really depends, and I think sometimes simplicity is better depending on the individual. And I think, like, if you're a trainer and you're doing really well, and you don't have the desire to run a business and be an entrepreneur and deal with all the things that you have to in business, I would say continue being a trainer and just kind of enjoy that, and provide a really great service. I think if you do have the ambition to open your own space, really investigate and get some advice on, like, what does that mean, right? Because a lot of people, I think, will try and open their space and be like, all I have to do is just train. I'll just train 40 hours a week, and I'll do as many sessions as I can, and people will just walk in the door, right? And that's just not what happens, and I've seen a lot of trainers struggle with that. It's like you got to do a lot of other things to keep the lights on in the business, and eventually you got to hire help, and you got to remove yourself a little bit from the training floor, and you got to do all these like weird business things like marketing and reviewing metrics, and all of these things that people just aren't accustomed to. So just kind of like know what you're signing up for. Do a little research, know what you're signing up for, and be ready for it. And be ready that if you don't have a business background, the growth is going to be hard. It's going to feel really hard. It's probably going to suck. You're probably going to want to think about quitting, because everybody kind of goes through that process. But I think if you can sign yourself up for that and be ready for it and mentally be in a growth mindset, then I think, there's the opportunity for you to be successful.
So, I guess your answer is it depends.
It depends. Which is largely what I say on the exercise
Yeah.
side too.
So, for listener who might have particular question that wanted to reach out to you,
Yeah.
what would be the best way to connect?
Yeah. Well, you can always email me. It's ctravis@seattlesp.com. Also on Instagram, chris.travis with 3 S's at the end. And then you can also go to the SSP website and get to me at seattlesp.com.
If you're listening, I will put that in the show notes so you could connect with Chris. Chris, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I really enjoy listening to your journey.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it.